more about, sorry, bear with me.
It's giving me those northern arms right now. That one.
Sorry, we're just sorting out a few tech setups here. But no, thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon to hear a little bit about us, a little bit about the Early Start Denver model and early intervention services that are available for children with autism. My name's Emma Armitage. I am the operations manager for CDI, so I oversee the overall operations of our services across sites. And over to my left.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Camilla and I'm a clinical manager for the CDI for our beautiful soon to be open site, and I hold a degree in early years and primary education, so I'm very familiar with the childcare context and where you are now.
Okay, so as we go, please feel free to send through questions if there's anything you would like us to elaborate on further through the chat on your Zoom. Oh, which one? Sorry, I've got too many screens.
So
That one.
A few text issues.
Sorry, bear with us. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today and what you're going to learn about is who is the CDI, so the Child Development Institute, what is autism, what is early intervention and the model that we deliver, the programs that we offer, so we'll elaborate on the different opportunities that are available for families, how the CDI can support families, and how you can refer families to the CDI if they need intervention for children with autism or developmental delay. And at the end, I'll quickly touch on our inclusion coaching program, which is a little bit different. This program is more focused on services rather than on families. Okay, so who is the CDI? We are an autism-specific early intervention service. We also cater for children with developmental delays. We're a family-owned business, and basically you can see that we've got Keith and Narelle in the middle there, and basically they set up this organisation after personal experience of their son, who, Greg, over on the far right, was diagnosed with autism later in life. So basically they have first-hand experience of what it's like to work with or to try and find appropriate services, how to integrate into the community with a child with autism. So basically that's why this business was set up. We've been in operation since 2018, and in that time we've helped more than 100 families achieve great outcomes for their children.
So over to me now. So what is early intervention and why is the early intervention important? So early intervention is a specialized support, a term that used to describe services and supports available to babies, young children with developmental delays, disabilities and their families. And effective early intervention, as you would know, would promote each child's development and meaningful engagement in all aspects of their life, but also will foster a personal set of strengths and skills that prepare the child for the adult life. And that's basically our ultimate goal. That's what we want to do here at the CDI with the model that we're working on. And why is it important? So we know that the first 7 years of the child's life are the most formative ones. Those are the building blocks, and that's when the brain is most malleable, most plastic, and that's where it's a great window of opportunity to have any intervention happening, for the children. Basically, genes provide the basic blueprint, but it's really about those earliest experiences, the relationships you've got with your primary caregivers in the form of serve and return, and the environments that will shape what happens to the children's brain. So I would I'm sure in your services, you might have noticed that you've got children with some maybe developmental delay, and it's, and you're wondering what to do. And actually the best approach is actually to access that early intervention. So there are two types of early intervention. There is a traditional way in the form of speech therapy. So if you've got a child with the oral motor delays or speech or the language, you might make a referral to the speech therapy. If you've got a child who's having issue with the fine motor control or emotional regulations or independency skills, you might refer the child to the occupational therapist. And then if you want, if you've got a child who is requiring support instead of that emotional and behavioral aspect, you might be referring them to the psychologist. And another part of the early intervention is what we call the intensive early intervention. And that's our ABA, that stands for Applied Behavioral Analysis, and also Early Start Denver model. And it's the model that we're working with here at the CDI. Yep. Okay, so what is ASD and the neuroscience behind it? So ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that presents itself in the difficulties in social communication, restrictive and repetitive behavior. And we say it's a spectrum because it varies from person to person. So the children with ASD might have poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal behavior, difficulty in maintaining relationships. You might see them at kindies perhaps lining up toys, flipping toys. They might having difficulties with the transitions. So moving from one activity to another can be, quite a challenge. They're quite structured in their way as well. So they can have fixated interest. It could be, you might see the child who wants to play with the dinosaurs at all times, or, lining up cars. They insist a lot on their sameness and following, special routines or patterns. During mealtime, we might observe that the child might insist on having a food set up in a certain way. So peas has to be on one side, whereas potatoes on the other side. And actually, they don't want that food to be mixed up. The children with autism can tolerate some sensory input, but they can be avoided in some parts. So some children might love playing with water, and the other ones might find that water is actually not something that they will enjoy. The other aspect associated with autism could be a difficulty sleeping, high anxiety, understanding other perspectives, and some levels of intellectual disability. So we've got three levels of autism that are described by Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, moving from level 1, which is a highly functioning autism, to level 3, which is quite severe, and the child will actually be requiring quite substantial support in that area of life. As we know, autism is a condition that is affected by genetics, but we don't want to see the biology as a destination. So again, coming back to the early experiences and the environment and the relationships the children have with the primary caregivers and yourself at the childcare services and the preschools, those are very important to actually change those circuits in the brain and neural pathways that will help the child in their development. All right, so what is ESDM? Well, fantastic model, may I say so myself, coming back, having a background in early years education as well. But the essence behind the model is to bring the children back into a social loop. So children with autism at around age of 6 months will fall out of the social loop. And what that means, they will pay less attention to people, their facial expressions, and they'll be sort of focusing more on the objects. So our job working through the model is actually bringing those children into the social loop. It's an evidence-based model that was developed at the University of California, UC Davis, California, Mind Institute by Professor Sally Rogers and Jerry Dawson. And it actually draws from 3 other forms of therapy, which is ABA, so it's ABA, Original Denver Model, and Pivotal Response Training. Is heavily grounded in research, and we know that a finding isn't a fact that could be replicated by other independent scientists, and using the same method of the original study. So the replication publication and study happened in 2014 at the Latrobe University of Melbourne, where this model, in its way that it's written in a manual, because this model has been manualized as well, has been applied to the group of children at the university that is run by the staff, and they've had some absolutely fantastic findings. It is a naturalistic model, meaning that it could be applied across multiple settings. So you could work with that model in a clinic rooms, in a group settings, at home, in a mainstream as well. So one of the jobs that we do here, actually, our therapists will go to the mainstream setting to help sort of structure that model within a LES setting and help the children to be integrated and be part of the group. Children engage in what is called the didactic engagements. It's that beautiful exchange where there's a lead and follow and lead, and really, you doing what the child is doing and the children following what you're doing as well. And that could be an exchange of the materials. So we're teaching the children how to take turns. We're focusing on their gaze, on their verbal and non-verbal communication. What else? It's made up of two parts. So it's what to teach and how to teach. So our what to teach within the model is a very comprehensive 480 objectives checklist. And we use that during our assessment, and that gives us a really good understanding where the children are at and where is the zone of proximal development, which you might have heard about it during the studies. And sort of creates a window of opportunity for children to start teaching the children. Based on that curriculum checklist, we develop a data that is and objectives for the child alongside the teaching steps. And pretty much in our clinic rooms or group programs, we take the data every 15 minutes. So the program is highly accountable and basically adds to the rigor. And all our therapists we basically have to sit within 80% fidelity to be qualified therapists within a CDI. And another part of the model is how to teach. So our how to teach are 13 teaching principles that we basically hold us accountable to the highest standard. And we want to make sure that this teaching actually is effective and children getting as much as possible out of it. And we do that through what is called the joint activity routine. A huge part of the model is a transdisciplinary team. So it's a team of professionals from different backgrounds that work basically, within ESD model and with other therapists. So we know that autism is a condition that affects pretty much every single aspect of the child's life and all the developmental domains. So if that's the case, it is important that we draw from expertise of others as well. So we're very fortunate to work with having OTs on board and a speech pathologist and psychologists who basically help other therapists within the clinics rooms or the group program to just get the best developmental outcomes for the children. Next. Yes. So the research, like I said, the model is highly accountable. It's grounded heavily in research. There is a lot of data. So they've done a lot of research, a lot of data that actually solidifies this model. And we know that it's working for the children. So ESDM improves social communication, decreases unwanted behavior that you might see in children with autism and developmental delay, and accelerates learning across all the domains. And the way we know that accelerates that learning is our data. So like I said, every 15 minutes, pretty much, we take the data in our clinic rooms and then at the end of the group programs as well. So we know how effectively, if the children are actually moving along. And if that wasn't the case, then obviously we have to, we're looking at our teaching steps and looking at how we can potentially change our teaching steps to get the children to master the skill that they want to, we set for them. All right, so how does ESDM link to LES learning framework? So similar to UILF, it's a play-based routine. So everything happens within sort of, it's a naturalistic approach. So you will deliver ESDM through hand washing routine, packing away the toys, having a structured activity set for the children, transition. So there's a beautiful correlation between play-based routine of ESDM and what early childhood service will you focus on in your daily practice. The huge emphasis, obviously, on their play base, recognizing the importance of communication, language, and social emotional development. Emphasis on a responsive and nurturing relationships, and that's just the basis. We know that the children's learning will never take place until they found that, a sense of belonging and they're feeling safe. So we're working very hard to what we called play partnering to begin with, to actually gain the children's attention and children's trust. And the children learn sooner or later that we actually found, play partner to attend to. So they coming back to that social loop. There is obviously the importance of safe, predictable, and supportive learning environments. So the children with autism thrive on the routines, and similar in your early childcare settings. You obviously have got your rhythms of the day, and you might have noticed if something changes, it throws children quite a lot. So we're very structured in terms of following those routines with the children. A huge component of this model is working with partnership with families, which is exactly what you do with at your early childcare services as well. So we know that parents are children's first educators, and they possess sort of the most knowledge about the children when they come into us, similar to when they enter for the first time early years setting. And it's important to have that communication and relationships very fluid and open, because again, it benefits the children in a long term. And the big one, which you would also have in your early childhood settings, is following, giving the children the choice. So you will, when you're in your group settings, you'll receive, I believe you've got a lot of activities set up around the room, and children will make an informed decision and have that agency to access the learning they would like to do. And similar to ESDM, where children are invited to access activity they would like to do, and that's sort of we starting work with the children based on that. That's going to be our first point of teaching the child. And learning has to be fun, so we want to try to do it in a nice and pleasurable way.
Lovely. Okay, it's back to me now. So
Basically what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through and talk about some of the programs that we offer at CDI. I won't talk about all of them, because I guess I'm going to focus on the ones that are actually available over on the Northern Beaches at the moment that might be relevant to your families. So let me have a look. As Camilla said, we use the Early Start Denver model, and that is integrated into everything we do within our programs. So the first program I'm going to talk about is our one-on-one ESDM clinic. So basically this session, it's a 1-hour session, one-on-one with an ESDM therapist. It's delivered in a clinical environment. So I guess the distractions are minimized so that the focus is on the therapist rather than on objects and things surrounding the child. In the clinics, the therapist will disperse between tabletop and sensory social routines. So basically, similar to what you would do in childcare, tabletop might be that more sedentary role, and sensory social routines are those, fun music, dancing, interactions, more sort of on the floor and a bit more physical. So the reason we do this basically is to make sure that we're always keeping the child within that optimum state of learning. So we don't want to spend too long with them at tabletop where we're going to lose the child's focus, or too long with them in sensory social routines where their arousal might get too high, and then again we've lost them in that optimum state of learning. During our clinics, it's where the child gets the most intensive therapy. So during the clinic sessions, we do target 20 to 26 ESDM objectives across all of their developmental domains. So basically the therapist is working at a very quick rate to make sure that we're targeting, and Camilla, you'll probably be able to provide me with the answer to this, at what rate we're actually targeting.
Well, pretty much the learning should happen every 30 seconds. So the teachable moments are happening every 30 seconds, but like I said, data is taking every 15 minutes to make sure that we're tracking the progress of the child and where we're moving with it. So each objective is broken into 6 to 8 teaching steps that are very precise. A big part of this model is also prompting. So we're going from least to most prompting similar to what you have in your early childcare services, where you actually got that high expectation of the child, and you know, they know that they're capable. It's just providing them with obviously right, you know, resources and materials for them to acquire that skill. So that's what we do also in our clinics. But yes, but it's quite intense, but it's in a really fun way. We want the clinic environment to resemble, in a way, you know, what they will see in a home or a childcare setting. So when we've got children coming for the assessment, we very often hear, oh, you know, they feel so comfortable here. It's very different to what I've observed when they go to an OT specialized clinic or speech, because, like I said, everything happens within the child's play, and we know that the child's play is where they want to be the most, whether they're children with the neurodevelopmental delay or, you know, whether children with autism or developmental delay. So we still, yeah.
Thank you. As Camilla has previously said, we do take data in the moment when we're in the sessions with the children. So we do take that pause every 15 minutes or so just to have a look at how the child's tracking, and also to make sure that we have actually attempted to target all of the child's program rather than waiting to the end of the session and going, oh my goodness, you know, we missed A, B, C, D, E and F. And we provide opportunity for parent capacity building during these sessions. So either the parent can come into the session and observe so they can get some ideas from the therapist of how to work with their child at home, or alternatively, they can watch via an iPad so that they're not in the space. And often parents may choose this as an option because they find that when they are present with their child, that then takes away their focus. We entirely leave it up to the parent as to what they would like to do, but there's definitely that opportunity for them to observe. And then at the end of each session, the therapist will give a thorough handover with the parent and talk about, you know, the objectives that they've been targeting, strategies to be using at home.
And it's interesting how quickly the children learn their routine. So similar to we've got in early childhood services, we will start our clinic with the hello song when the child sits on the chair, and we're targeting a specific skills and objectives that were set for them. And then we go through sort of the program and the finishes with our goodbye song as well. And it's so beautiful to see how quickly they thrive on those routines. So we actually use, the fact that the children with autism are sometimes so fixated on routines to our advantage to make sure that those are also teachable moments.
Okay. Whoop, up here. So another program that we offer is our inclusion readiness program. So basically this one is a 3-hour session, which operates Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So basically in this session, the parent has the opportunity to drop their child off and leave the service, or alternatively, they can stay on site if they would prefer and work, or, you know, network with other families or whatever it might be. During this program, we operate on a ratio of 1 to every 2 children. Myself coming from an early childhood background, and similar to yourselves, when you hear a ratio of that, you're like, you know, that's quite amazing, really. But again, we're working with children that have very high needs, and we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to really spend time with them during this program. During this program, we provide a variety of indoor and outdoor experiences and routines that mimic the experiences and environments of a typical childcare centre. You can see just slightly in that photo there, the types of spaces that we have available. But basically, as I said, we've got an indoor and outdoor environment. The environment is slightly edited, I guess, to make sure that it is suitable and more supportive of children with autism. So within our environments, one thing that you will notice is that we minimise the amount of resources and objects that are just available to the child. Again, as Camilla mentioned, we need to make sure we're bringing the child back into the social loop. So if there's resources or equipment available for the child, we want to make sure that one of our therapists is also there with the child so that the child is interacting with the therapist and the object, rather than sitting in a corner and just going back and forth with the train, which is quite often can be a characteristic of a child with autism. Our routines, as I said, are very similar to those of early childhood. We provide an opportunity for indoor and outdoor. We provide an opportunity for transition. We provide opportunities for gross motor, fine motor, construction, reading, creative. We provide that opportunity for toilet training or going to the bathroom or washing hands or morning and afternoon tea. Oh, sorry, morning tea. Providing all of those opportunities, because basically what we want to do is get a child used to those types of routines and experiences in an environment such as ours, so that once they start to transition out of our environment, they're more aware and more familiar of those expectations when they enter into a mainstream early childhood education setting. Each of our children enrolled in IRP have an individualised ESDM treatment plan, but our focus in the inclusion readiness program are on basically our inclusion goals. So we call them our overarching IRP learning objectives. But during this program, I guess we're not focusing so much on those cognitive goals, although they obviously through integration they are there, but our main focus, we might look at social routines, being able to engage in a routine, being able to transition from one space to another, being able to separate from their parent, being able to participate in experiences with other children, or being able to tolerate another child near them or another child touching their, their stuff. So that's basically our focus when they're in within IRP. So as I said, a routine very similar to what you might see in an early childhood space. And this is just a very quick example of that. So basically arrival, settle into the program. About 45 minutes we'll spend outside, sandpit, gross motor, creative, sensory, so on and so forth, allowing those, I guess, more of that physical active interactions and experience to occur. Pack away and transition. We know with children with autism, they can often find it very hard to transition from one space to another. So we make sure we've got a variety of opportunities for them to transition. Group times, another thing we know about children with autism, they don't particularly like sitting down with a group of other people and engaging. So we make sure we have, a larger group time and a smaller group time with the children, encouraging them to participate in those experiences. Transition inside via the bathroom, morning tea, again, really focusing on those. This is where we might focus more on their personal independence. So hand washing, being able to open a container or drink from a cup, whatever it might be. We then have time inside, participating in a variety of indoor activities, and then again outside. So as I'm saying, very similar to what you might have in a ECEC space. This is our mainstream support program, and this is whereby one of our therapists goes out to the child's mainstream early childhood environment, similar to your own. So basically, our objective of this program has a real emphasis on the capacity building of educators and teachers. We completely acknowledge the skill set and qualifications and experiences that teachers and ECTs or educators have, but we also know that there is limited opportunity out there for support and professional development with working with children with autism. So basically this program is to work specifically with your service, specifically with the child, and identify where their barriers and challenges are to inclusion. So basically we would then work through that and unpack that with the educators at the service and come up with some strategies to enhance the child's authentic inclusion. And we do this through reflective discussion with educators. We do it through modelling, guiding practice, mentoring. Thank you. I knew there was one more, mentoring. And basically, this is a term-based program. It's generally 10 to 12 weeks, depending on the term. We allocate 3 hours, but only 1.5 hours of that is actually in the service with you. And basically, our therapists that come out have a background in early childhood education. So while they've got the ESCM training behind them, they also have a real thorough understanding and knowledge of an ECT or ECEC environment and the restrictions and the policies and procedures that come along with that. So they can be working with you. And we embed the ESCM teaching principles into that program. That's all right. Sorry, we're meant to edit. Oops. So basically, I'm just going to talk you through. This isn't one of our programs as such, but what this is a preliminary assessment or an assessment that a parent can access. And the reason I'm just bringing this out to you is because this basically can support the families to access an intensive therapy provider. So if they come into us and do an assessment with us, they can then use that as evidence to put together when they apply for their NDIS funding. So basically, all of our programs, the parents can access through the NDIS. We do not want families to be paying for our services out of pocket, nor should they have to. So we provide a lot of support to our families to be able to help them gather the evidence and the information that they need to take to their planning meetings so that their child can get the therapies, the support funding that they need to access the therapies that they need. So lots of support from us to help them in that process. Currently, we have 1.5 centres, I'll say. So we've got a full operational centre out at Northmead, where Camilla and I both are today. We are in the middle of doing a build at Beacon Hill. You may have seen us on Beacon Hill Road, Warringah Road. So we're in the process. We're hoping that that build will be finished, or we're aiming for a July, August open out there. While we're waiting for the Beacon Hill mothership to open, we have a temporary, we have a temporary service available at DY. So we're just renting some rooms there so we can provide some programs to families as we're waiting for Beacon Hill to open. So from DY, parents can access the one-on-one ESCM clinics that I spoke about. We also have an OT there, so the parents can access occupational therapy. We have a small group program that 2 children and 2 therapists engage in, the mainstream support program that I mentioned, and then also parents having access to those preliminary assessments. So basically referring to us, the beauty of us is there's no formal referral required. Basically, families can just reach out to us via our website or via phone, and we can provide them, sorry, bear with me. We can provide them with information about our programs, how to access our programs, how to access the funding that they require. The beauty of us also, because we're expanding, it means we actually have availability. The amount of times that we hear about wait lists of 6 to 12 months, some even 18 months. We know with children with autism or any child with a delay, as Camilla knows, or as Camilla mentioned, early intervention is essential. Important. Yeah. So basically just wrapping up now, how can we help, and how can we help families of children with autism or developmental delays? We can help by basically providing a really unique service to families that are reflective and tailored to suit each individual child. It's not a one size fits all model. We basically tailor our programs to meet that child's needs, with the aim of minimising or reducing those supports over time. We provide, as Camilla mentioned, it's a very partnership, collaborative relationship with our families, and we provide ongoing support from them. And we could do that from the time that the child is diagnosed all the way through to when they start school.
And also that relationship is important, because when we're thinking about child generalizing the skill, so mastering that skill. We need to make sure that child is able to do across multiple services. So it's not just with me in a clinic, but also if, for example, I teach the child pointing, the child knows how to do it being with mum at home or in the mainstream service as well. So that relationship is really, really important.
And as previously mentioned, we can provide support to families to access their NDIS funding. If a parent really needs intensive supports, we can then refer them to a NDIS consultant to then also help them with that process. Now, I'll just quickly wrap up. This is our inclusion coaching program. I mentioned at the beginning, this one's a little bit different. So all of the programs that I mentioned previously, all the ones that I mentioned previously are funded through the child's NDIS plan and is basically focused on an individual child. Our inclusion coaching program, however, is run very similar to our mainstream support program, whereby a therapist will go out and help work with your service to build the capacity of educators and teachers to work with children with autism. The main difference with this one is that this program can be funded through Innovative Solutions funding and can be funded by your service. And this program, rather than based on an individual child, it is based on your service as a whole. So the different environments and children that you have there to provide supports across all different spaces and all educators as well. And basically provide sustainable and long-term solutions for you to be implementing into your service. Oh. Our question slide has disappeared, so I'm just going to go back one. One more. Okay, so basically in a nutshell, that's us here at the CDI. If you would like to know more information about us, you can jump onto our website. There are a lot of great little mini webinars on there that you can have a look at from an ECE perspective, from a parent perspective, or from a...
or little tips that can help you in your daily practice.
So you can find more information on there. And I guess we'll sort of wrap it up. We know we're coming to the end of session, but
like any brochures?
Yeah, if you would like some brochures sent out to you or any further information, just put a note in your chat. Or if you have any questions regarding the information that we just shared, add it to the chat. Well, as I said, information is up there regarding our website. You can send through any questions at a later stage if you want to. But apart from that, thank you again for your time. We know how precious it is during
Your lunch break.
an early childhood service, so we really appreciate it. We hope that you found some useful tips and useful information to help support your families with referral and services that are available in your local area.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. What's the, because 7's coming up on the chat, is they just fingers and...
7 comments.
Okay. Have we stopped? Oh, I'm doing it, huh? Stop. I end. Stop sharing. I'm not working. This is not being my friend today.
Okay.
Yep.